Coral reefs around the world have been subject to everything from disease to climate change. But a paper published in the scientific journal notes that a reef off Marsh Harbor, Abaco has seemed to withstand the forces of climate change. Our Jiminy DeSwain spoke to one of the researchers from the Perry Institute of Marine Science on their findings.
Executive Director of the Perry Institute, Dr. Craig Dahlgren, says regionally, the biggest threats to coral reefs is warmer sea temperatures due to climate change that makes the coral reefs more vulnerable to disease. Meantime, Dr. Dahlgren shares some new developments with one local coral reef in particular.
We've been doing research on reefs around Central Abaco for the past 5 years or so. In 2015, we first noticed that a lot of the reefs around there, it was a very warm summer, a lot of the reefs bleached. That is, they lost the microalgae that live in their tissues that provides them with food, and they turned white. And many of them starved to death basically and died at that point. Some of them became more vulnerable to disease, but this one reef in particular didn't bleach at all. It handled the stress perfectly well.
The research that concluded last year prior to the hurricane season yielded positive results.
So with this reef in particular, Mermaid Reef off of Abaco, it is adapted so that it can handle the stress of temperature fluctuations better than other reefs, and that might make it more resistant to other threats like disease as well. So this doesn't necessarily mean that that reef is resistant to the disease, but it's likely to handle all kinds of stresses better because it can handle some of the biggest stresses of temperature better than other reefs.
However, with the restrictive measures in place due to the coronavirus pandemic, Dr. Dahlgren is optimistic that researchers will get back in the water and assess the reef's condition at this time. The research offers promise for the regeneration of ailing reefs.
So what this means more broadly is that we can then use that reef as in our restoration efforts, use corals samples from that reef to propagate. Also try to get that corals there on that reef to spawn, and then we can fertilize eggs from other reefs with gametes from that reef so that we can spread those genetics across a wider range of reefs in the Bahamas and hopefully build some resilience to climate change within those reefs.
While the measure may be a small step to preserve coral reefs, the ultimate goal of researchers is to slow the warming of the ocean and ensure a future with healthy coral reefs. Jiminy DeSwain, ZNS Network News.